Bismillah, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his servant. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the gift from Allah who came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom all praise are due forever, and from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the exalted one, who escaped the death plot February 1975. I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum. That just means may peace be unto you in the Arabic language. You are tuned into Northwest Stance. And we are live today, October 24, 2025, Open Signal facility. I want to always thank Open Signal for allowing this program to be so consistent on their airways throughout the years. I want to always thank Brother Daniel for coming to help us to continue to cablecast this kind of message to our people and to others who will listen. So we have an hour talk today as usual, and our topic for the day would be a promising future. We want to share with people the public teachings. Hear what I'm saying now? We want to share with people the public teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the stance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So we want to get into, as always, scripture. We want to get into current events. We want to get into things that will help us, points, concepts that will help us to understand the reality of what is happening today, particularly in America and around the earth. We want to get into a few words from Mr. Farrakhan, from his book, from his monumental, historical book, A Torchlight for America. And we want to get into why studying is so important, why studying is a mental exercise, and why studying cannot be overlooked if we want to actually get through seeing this time in the best way possible, according to our capacity, most definitely. Let me say that again. We want to we want to do our best to get through this time that we live in now, the best way that we know how, according to our capacity. So, a promising future. This promising future is based in the scriptures, is based in nature, is based in historical not evidence, but historical facts that actually show us the nature of history and how it is a cycle, but that cycle can be broken by what is called non-conditional prophecies. And will be talking about this topic today, a promising future, as a fellow student of these teachings. That is, again, I can't stress enough, that is public information. Now, as brother put up the websites throughout this hour talk, you should get out a pen and paper. You should really write these down and check it out, because there is too many of us, especially here in Portland, Oregon. Man, this enemy is so slick that he still looks for the ignorant among our people, sisters and brothers, and he used them until they find out. But if they would have just taken up the proper study, he wouldn't even be, or she, or they, wouldn't even be able to get that close to us to make fools of us, to actually utilize us for their silly whims and so forth. Okay? A promising future. So, some discard the importance of foretold forthcoming events because of voluntary ignorance and other reasons. And remember, as we talk about, ignorance and what we got to do about ignorance in our mind and so forth, it is not an insult. Ignorance at its core just means being unaware. It's different states of ignorance, most definitely. But it just basically means just being unaware. But there are some ignorance that we are to be held account for, and then some ignorances that we are not to be held account for. And that is something that that should be explained to us, but that we should really think about as we make decisions throughout life. I'm reminded often, just, from trying to strive to study, that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that we should always think 5 times before we speak. Man, I would be a pretty happy man when I actually learn how to master that, because, I know I'm not in the mind frame to master that yet, but Allah willing, I will be. So, again, some disregard the importance of foretold, forthcoming events because of voluntary ignorance and other reasons. Voluntary ignorance refers to unaware states that result from the neglect to take reasonable steps to acquire a requisite important knowledge. So we have to say things and do things to make the mind more responsible to learn, to want to learn what we have to learn, or what we need to learn, or what we should actually want to know more about. And that takes a kind of conversation and kind of actions from others who know, that will allow us to continue to develop into knowledge and want to pursue that which we need to know to actually accomplish what we need to accomplish as individuals and as a community. It's throughout the country, from California to Portland to Seattle to Boston to Chicago to New York. Our people, we have lost our communities from what they call gentrifying the community and so forth. Now, I have heard it said that, gentrifying the community is a good thing. I heard it said that it's a good thing. It's a good thing if those who gentrify the community, it's a good thing for them temporarily, because they actually use deceit and trickery to trick people out of their living areas. And not only that, when they get into the living area and then they build it up and bring funds in and so forth, well, those funds were purposely not used to help the foundational Black Americans to actually develop and stay with their families in a area where they actually are accustomed to throughout the country now. Okay? And now we're at the end of that. And we want to talk about all of that today, Allah willing. Again, our topic, a promising future. Now, the word requisite. We said earlier that we have to take steps to acquire requisite important knowledge. Okay? The word requisite means made necessary by particular circumstances or regulations. We should strive to stay mindful that the mind is a muscle that needs constant exercise. Constant exercise. This is why when people take up higher learning, when people learn languages, when people learn how to but learn how to work on their cars and so forth, when people actually learn how to bake, first they actually learn the language of the skill that they would like to learn. Then after that, they begin to experiment. And all of that deals with their mind, their thinking, going back and forth with what are thinking on, okay, engulfing the information of what they would like to learn and begin to practice. Well, that is a lesson for us to be mindful of as we in our communities are striving now to be on code as a people. And we mean Black people. We are striving now, and we will reach that point to be on code as a people. What's happening now is the manifestation of those weak minds that has to be addressed. But if they, hold up their hands and walk away and thrust their fingers in their ears, okay, live and let live. But it still has to be addressed so that we will understand and they will understand that the atmosphere is changing from going along to get along. The atmosphere is changing from going along to get along. So you are going to hurt your future. You are going to bury your talents, okay? If you keep letting whoever it is, if it's white people, if it's Asians, others, take you off your point of thinking about we have to build a community, build a nation worthy of God's name, worthy of God's protection, and worthy of God's guidance. We want to get into that too a little bit further today. So we're going to show that we have a promising future, and it is because this truth is working on us. in a positive way, and this truth is working on our open enemies, where he is setting himself up to lose everything he got. Not only here, but nationwide too. It involves the so-called immigrant problem. It involves the geopolitical thing that's going on right now around the world. All of these things are to be considered, thought about, pondered. Okay? Promising future. The word, I want to always define words before we actually get into the meat of our hour talk today. The word promise means a declaration or assurance that one will do a particular thing or that a particular thing will happen. As a verb, promise means assure someone that one will definitely do, give, or arrange something, undertake, or declare that something will happen. The word future means the time or a period of time following the moment of speaking or writing. Time regarded as still to come. As an adjective, it means at a later time, going or likely to happen or exist. Okay, we have a glorious future, we have a promising future, and this kind of information can be studied so that our decisions in life, from today to tomorrow to the next, because times are moving fast, events are happening fast, to bring down what is a hegemony that is now obsolete. This is happening, okay? But where are we at in preparing our minds? Because we know that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. It's his messenger. We know that, okay? But for us to actually engulf ourselves into that, we have to begin to actually develop our thinking on a message of the time and what must be done. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote in Fall of America on page 239, listen to this. He said, the disbeliever believes in that which he sees present and not that which is prophesied to come. This is why he is the loser and takes the course to hell, because he disbelieves in that which is prophesied to come about a particular day. I'll read that again. The disbeliever believes in that which he sees present and not that which is prophesied to come. This is why he is the loser and takes the course to hell, because he disbelieves in that which is prophesied to come about a particular day. We want to talk about that particular day in this hour talk. Believer and knower are different mind states, but we can't become a knower without belief. And being a knower is not just because we don't want to be a believer any longer. Being a knower is not just because we don't want to become a believer, be a believer any longer. So those who think that they have arrived intellectually and do not like to use the term, well, I'm not a believer anymore, I'm a knower. Throughout life, since knowledge is infinite, since Allah's mind is infinite and so forth, we are always a believer. As we go through life, learning from the universe, learning from our earth, learning from each other, learning from the ups and downs, ebbs and flows of ourselves. We are always a believer, looking at something and then realizing what we are looking at, and keep our mind fixed on what we are looking at or thinking about. And then as time moves on, we begin to know more and more about that. That's a believer gaining more and more knowledge. And we are that throughout life. So, what is to come about a particular day? How would we know? Yeah, those are some questions. And we're going to get to some information about that. But before we get to that, those are two questions, okay? I recall the minister, he parsed apart the word question. And in question, you see question. Now look, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad advised his listeners and followers to ask questions and learn all about ourselves. The idea of keeping a veil, so some minimize the importance of foretold, forthcoming events to keep a veil on people's thinking. And that is what we are to speak against today and into the future. As the Holy Quran tells us, we are to hurl truth at falsehood until we knock out its brains. I said that before some weeks ago. That's instructions. We are to hurl. We are not to be disrespectful. Okay, we are not to, be aggressive and so forth. But we don't go along to get along, and we are not to act as though we are trying to make you to accept what we have accepted, what our stance is, and so forth. The Holy Quran tells us that we are not to lose our soul over grief, and grief over disbelievers. We are not to lose our soul in grief over disbelievers. Now, remember this now. Listen to what I'm saying. Because everybody watching this, they're not a Muslim. They're not a Nation of Islam rank and file member and so forth. We are not to lose our soul in grief over the disbeliever. Did you know that the Holy Quran says that the believers, okay, are the Christians, the Jews, the Sabians, those who believe in their Lord in the last day? Those are believers, okay, and of course the Muslims. So we are not separating ourselves from other believers in Scripture, from other believers in God, from other goodwill people and so forth. But you don't understand that because a veil has been put over your thinking regarding what we are presenting around the country. Okay? Remember these websites. Get out your pen and paper. Write them down, because this is just a sincere introduction, or reintroduction, I guess, to this city of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And this introduction is actually striving to show us that it is a verifiable body of knowledge. It's not no mumbo jumbo stuff, as Brother Jabril Muhammad used to always write in his articles and so forth. It's not no mumbo jumbo stuff. This is a verifiable body of knowledge, and not only is it verifiable, it has been proven that what was revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the knowledge of the time and what must be done, along with other things also involved in it, to actually show us clearly what is what and who is who, so that we will strive our best to become properly developed believers in truth and in God. Okay, there are believers, but they're not developing properly. But all of us, including myself, we are to continue to actually strive to become a properly developed believer according to our capacity. According to our capacity. And that means a lot. That means a lot. So, as I said earlier, some minimize the importance of forthcoming events to keep a veil on people's thinking. The idea of keeping a veil on people's thinking generally refers to techniques of influence, persuasion, and manipulation to shape or obscure perception. Man, and Negroes are the worst victims of this, but we coming out of this now. But now we have to put in front of our consciousness of not going along to get along, not laughing with these people when it ain't nothing funny, because they don't do it among themselves. Okay? So why should we, because we are still in this subjective condition, not for long though. Yeah, we're gonna have our own community. We're gonna have such a way that we can begin to grow our own food and so forth. There is I should remember that YouTube channel. But there's a YouTube channel. It's something like a black village, but it's growing all over the country, where these are beautiful black people that have all of this land, and they're building homes. They making sure it will not be a food desert and so forth. And we have to look into that and actually see why that will succeed, even though our enemy many decades ago practiced economic sabotage on us when we actually had that developed. And after economic sabotage, they actually developed a way to make it seem like we didn't want to do for self. So they would flood, ethnic Russian communities, other communities with funds and so forth, and that was supposed to make us look down upon ourselves. But hey, we in the turn of events now, okay? Yeah. So, let me read this meaning again. The idea of keeping a veil on people's thinking generally refers to techniques of influence, persuasion, and manipulation to shape or obscure perception, rather than a literal action. Unethical forms of thought control is like propaganda or misinformation. So, let us go back to a question we asked earlier. What is to come about a particular day? And what is to come about a particular day? It's many things, but I want to deal with one verse today. Or really two from the Bible, the Gospel and the Old Testament. It's many things, but in these things that are coming about in this day and time, it would trigger other events and so forth. You see, we are not to be the kind of people. I recall, look, I think there's it's a website also that will come up that says tabletalks.org. It is on YouTube. 1973 Savior's Day speech of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You know, he said something that sounds so simple, but it was so much to it. He said, "Oh man, I'm glad that I watch it and I try to put things to memory." He said, "We are raised up to show the world how it feels to be righteous, not how it feels to be mean-spirited." Not how it feels to be cowards of those who are unrighteous and trying to spread that wicked homosexual behavior and so forth. But we are raised up to actually show the world how it feels to be righteous, how it feels to go against the grain, knowing that the grain is something that Allah Himself wants us to go against. All praise due to Allah. So, what is to come about a particular day? Check this out. In the book of Genesis. And we are to learn this and then begin to think like, man, I got to do a lot more for myself because I got the right to. So I got the right to learn how to get cleaner water. I got the right to learn how to, in my house or apartment, to purify the air so I can breathe clean when I'm sleeping and do those good prayers at night or in the morning time where I know that it's a clean atmosphere. I got the right to learn this stuff because when we're going to be gone for a long time. So why not just learn things? And really, really true learning, really, I'm telling you the truth. True learning is really fun. It's not boring. You know what I'm saying? True learning is really fun. If you haven't got to that point yet, it's okay. But I'm telling you, you got to rearrange your thinking and your thoughts because that's the point you get to. You will get to, and you have to get to. So, what is to come about a particular day? First of all, in the book of Genesis, in the 15th chapter, the 13th and 14th verse. Now, our enemies don't like us. Our enemies don't like us reading this or bringing this up because they feel like slavery. They feel like slavery is over. No, slavery is not over. Slavery is not over. The physical bondage that happened from 1555 until 1955, really, that has ended. But slavery on another level has been practiced since then. Slavery where you actually, from your authority and power and from your know-how, you actually develop the Planned Parenthood to destroy black families and destroy the fertility of black women. And you like, oh man, how did we now have that Planned Parenthood destroying our own white women? Yeah, you see how things turn around? And it's going to be worse on the turnaround than what you did initially. It's just real. Because as the Bible says, as thou hast done to others, so shall it be done to thee. And the black man and woman particularly, The black men and women here in North America, we are those chosen people to bring the whole world as a catalyst, to bring the whole world back to the one true worship of the one true God. Because of our deep fall and our deep sleep, some call it dementia, okay, that as we rise, as we are reformed, the whole world will tip their hats at us and will actually get in line because they know that, okay, God has given them something that's going to save humanity. This is the talk today among the Muslims who follow the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, among the Muslims who study the stance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Jesus in our midst today. Okay, let me give you a hint of why we are the catalyst. Just go on, yeah, I always say YouTube, but YouTube has a bunch of stuff. You know, just go on YouTube and check out how different cultures learn from us. Different cultures take our culture and because we have not been on code and so forth, they have learned how to make us their cash cow. You know, from our culture, from our creativity and so forth, and from what they know is particularly our gifts. Okay? So now we are in a time where all of this is to be explained and then worked on from a divine solution. So, in Genesis, it says, and he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and they shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also, that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance. That judgment means a lot. That's a knowledge. Great substance, that means a lot. That's a knowledge. Okay? And then, that was in Genesis. Then, also, in the book of Acts, it reads, and God spake on this wise, that his seed should sojourn in a strange land, and that they should bring them into bondage and entreat them 400 years. Now, I'm going to get to, well, there's a quote from Thomas Jefferson, okay, back many centuries ago, about the issue of slavery. And how he mentioned this is very particular. Very particular. Should actually introduce to us what particular day, man, are we in today. So, a quote from Thomas Jefferson is, quote, indeed, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, and his justice cannot sleep forever, unquote. Then he ended this quote with these words, quote, the Almighty has no attribute which can take side with us in such a contest, unquote. Man. This was his words in the document or writing Notes on Slavery in the Wrath of God. Notes on Slavery in the Wrath of God. The State of Virginia, 1784. You see? And we ain't going to get away from this. Man, this enemy, the generation now, they are so, let me see, what is the word for that? They are so paranoid, but slick and so consistent that they want to keep us in different conversations, trying to make us to think that this is a melting pot and it's a different time now and we should all just get along. That ain't the case. If we should all just get along, why did you gentrify black communities all over the country? If we should all just get along, why did you admit now that your community, your authorities, along with others, brought in the crack and created the crack cocaine epidemic and festered gang life in LA and New York and other places and so forth? You guys have documented this. So there ain't no getting along. There ain't no it's a different time. No, you have to step aside and you have to see and study how you are going to save yourself through this judgment. And there are different words for what's going on today. Through this judgment, through this Armageddon, through this end of the world and so forth. Okay? This is deep. Let me see. We will read some words from the minister about Thomas Jefferson from his book Torchlight for America a little bit further into this hour talk today. So, from those verses I just read, there is historical documents to prove that description refers to us. It's not a description of a ancient historical fact in the Middle East or in Africa and so forth. No, the scriptures are just that, scriptures written before the actual happening. And why not see that clearly? Because this is exactly what has happened in our capture. The Bible talks about that. How do it say that? It calls us, it calls us lawful captives. Lawful captives. In what sense? In what sense? Because these enemies always make up laws, to make it seem like they have perpetual control and so forth. And now they even getting sick of their own laws. It's like when the police, stop a person, and they know they just being a mischief maker, and then they want to talk to the person and get the person to feel intimidated. They'll say, here's the deal. Yeah, man. Okay, look. A proper discussion of these biblical verses by political leaders, religious leaders, and historians would bring clarity to the reason for the plight and condition of the black man and woman here in America, and would clarify the reason for the chaos in the world. Without proper discussion, there will continue to be a string of misfortune because we are the Achilles heel of the world. Until our problem is solved, no problem, domestic or foreign, will be solved. And the God himself is in this to bring about a divine solution. Hear what I'm saying? The God himself. And you can study this on the websites that we put up. All this is me striving to make sure that I participate in every way I can, or in any way that I have the capacity to actually spread this message throughout this city and the adjacent cities, and those who will listen, via their phone or whatever. Very important. So, the word again, how you pronounce that? Achilles heel. We are the Achilles heel for the world. Achilles heel is a weakness or vulnerable point. The idiom Achilles heel means a specific weakness or vulnerability in an otherwise strong person, plan, or object that can lead to its failure. While America has minimized and depreciated our condition and plight, and still today, man, all that's going on with them today now, they still do not want to face the truth that they are under and how can I say that? Under a judgment or decision from God himself, because they want to talk about every other problem they got except the problem of the Negro in America. That's not going away. You're not going to bring in the Africans and then make them your new niggas. I gotta say it like that. You're not going to bring in the Mexicans and then twist them to make them think like, man, how come these blacks don't have nothing? We have this, we have that. You see how that's turning around on you now? You see how that's turning around on you now? And the Bible talks about this empire. Okay? Now, let's say it was talking about Belshazzar and Nebuchadnezzar thousands of years ago. But still, though, if you are reading that and it matches today like it never matched before, that is what prophecy is. And the more we study prophecy, the more it develops our minds to be on the right side of prophecy instead of being on the negative side of prophecy. Okay? So the Bible talks about this land, our empire, that were having all these problems and so forth. And the Bible does say, check this out. The Bible does say They came in through the windows. They came in through the windows, meaning that these people will actually lose control of their borders. But why? But why? Oh man, we want to get to that today, most definitely. That involves the broken promise. Even though we have a promising future, that involves the broken promise of the 40 acres and a mule that we were supposed to get. Then after that, the economic sabotage. You know, the black Wall Streets that we built in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, you know, they set up, you know, and some they firebombed, some they lied and said a black man raped, you know, a little devil girl or whatever, and then they came in and they messed up the whole town and did that everywhere and so forth. I forget who it was, but a report came out that in New York City, it's this, man, in New York City, it's this big park, famous park or whatever and so forth. And these historians are, what's the word for those who dig up the earth? I forgot the terminology of the word for them. But anyway, they said that one of the biggest slave graves is under this park. Whoa, man. You know, this is not going away. It's not going away because we're going to ball our fists and want to fight and want to join one of America's enemies, you know, over here, over there, and so forth. It's not going away because the time we live in, God has defined this time, and He has chosen us. So they are actually in a fight with a mind that actually have all intelligence, has all power over intelligence. You know, and this is explained further. It's proven from different angles in the websites that we are putting up that you can study for yourself. You can study them for yourself. Now, where are we at here? Let me see. Okay, I should probably read. Yeah, so I said earlier, man, I got so much here and we don't have that much time. I said earlier about slavery and about Thomas Jefferson saying that, indeed, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just and that His justice cannot sleep forever. Now, check this out. Check out how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talked about this quote, or brought up this quote, in his wonderful book, A Torchlight for America. Let me see, where should I start at? Okay. Yes. Okay. So, he writes, even though the country was populated by so-called Indians and black slaves were brought to build the country, the official seal of the country was never designed to reflect our presence, only that of the European immigrants. The seal in the Constitution reflects the thinking of the founding fathers that this was to be a nation by white people and for white people. Native Americans, blacks, and all other non-white people were to be burden bearers of the real citizens of this nation. For the reverse or back of the seal, the committee suggested a picture of Pharaoh. Now think about this. This is white people back in these days when they actually developed the flag. The American seal, the symbolism and so forth, and when they developed all of this was their thinking. For the reverse or back of the seal, the committee suggested a picture of Pharaoh sitting in an open chariot with a crown on his head and a sword in his hand, passing through the divided waters of the Red Sea in pursuit of the Israelites. Hovering over the sea was to be shown a pillar of fire and a cloud, expressive of the divine presence and command. Raised from this pillar of fire were to be shown beaming on Moses, standing on the shore and extending his hand over the sea, causing it to overwhelm Pharaoh. Okay? The motive for the reverse was rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. Okay, when the founding fathers put this nation together and put forth word to actually show, their intention and their mind and so forth, they put on their, they put on their seal, rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. Okay? Why do you think, man? Okay. The design reveals the spiritual blindness inherited in the genesis of America. The founding fathers upheld obedience to God as their symbol while practicing genocide, colonialism, and slavery among the native populations and our forebears. It was Thomas Jefferson who said, "I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just and that his justice cannot sleep forever." It was George Washington who said that he feared the slaves would become a most troublesome species of property before too many years passed over our heads. So, what have they developed today? Let me find that, because I know we don't have enough time to get to that if I don't find it right away. Let me see here. Man. Okay. I'm not going to find it, so let me just go on with the next paragraph. Our people practice separation, doing for self. Okay? That's what separation means, doing for self. It doesn't mean exclusion. Separation is doing for self. Okay? We were doing for self in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. We practiced separation because our enemies did not see the need to deceive us to desire assimilation with them. We did well away from them, but they came to a conclusion or decision that the future about their future on this land. Their wishful thinking put them and their future generations in a very real dilemma. Okay? In a very real dilemma. Let me stop here and just remind us of this. I want to remind us to do this as soon as we can. Okay? Do you remember the Donahue Show? All those talk shows back in the day and stuff, right? It's free to watch. You really need to see this. It's 1990, and I think, what was the next year? I forget the next year, but 1990, Donahue, where Farrakhan was on Donahue for the entire hour, okay? While Donahue questioned him and allowed the mainly white audience to question him, okay? White people need to watch that over again. I think the YouTube page is a brother named Iron Muhammad. I think. But anyway, if you put that in YouTube, it comes right up. People need to watch that again. Arabs that they are here, only been here for probably 5, 10, 20 years. You need to watch that. Mexicans are just now coming in and so forth. You need to watch that. Okay? Of course, the ethnic Russians, they didn't watch it, I believe, many a time, but they just don't care. Okay? But these things have to be brought up. So, again, their wishful thinking put them and their generations into a very real dilemma. Dilemma means a situation in which a difficult choice has to be made because two or more alternatives, especially equally undesirable ones, between two or more alternatives, especially equally undesirable ones. There is no way out because the conditions are circular and self-defeating. Self-defeating. Okay? And let me say this again also, because, you know, our enemies always try to counter us. When we talk about reparations, it don't just mean money, but it means repair. It means proper transfer of knowledge, of land, you know, all of that. It don't just mean money, but at the core it means repair, you know. When we bring up reparations, our open enemies try to say, well, you know what, man, these people, bro, well, I didn't own no slaves. You know, you didn't own no slave, and I wasn't no slave. Of course not. Of course not. But look here though. Okay, there ain't no abracadabra nation. There ain't no abracadabra nation. Things happen to actually bring it to power or take it out of power. Okay? Or make it fall. Okay? And that that history or that knowledge of how America came to its riches and so forth, domestically and foreignly, it makes the present generation of whites who don't want to share the wealth what they are today. It's like, I say it like this. Let's say, and I made this point before, I want to say it again. Let's say I had 5 or 10 uncles, in the hood, and all they did was just ball and sell dope. All that money they made, they bought up apartment buildings, man, cars, they invested in stocks, all this stuff. And now they all gone. And I'm the only nephew left. Should I accept all of that? The stocks, the homes, the apartment buildings, should I accept? Of course I should accept it. But you know what, though? I should accept it knowing that it was ill gain, and then use that, of course, live comfortably, but use that to actually help to remedy or cure the condition that my uncles contributed to in the neighborhood. Okay? I shouldn't just, hold my hands behind my back like, man, I didn't sell drugs. I wasn't a hustler. No, man, you got a responsibility. And that's the problem with these white people. You're going to pay for thinking that you can think your way out of black people in this day and time being given their just due. It's a price to pay for, and you're paying that price now. And we got to stay away from y'all. We got to deal with ourselves. We got to focus on self-improvement, the basis of development of our community, and not be scared to not go along to get along with y'all, because the time is out for that. Okay? Let's make sure that we know that reparations is not some obsolete concept. It's coming one way or the other. Yeah. Okay. Man, where should I start at? Because, okay. Our enemies practiced Jim Crow laws, inmate leasing. Have you heard about that? Many of us haven't. We should look into that. Economic sabotage. In modern times today, they practice what they call eminent domain, gentrifying neighborhoods, Planned Parenthood, medical crimes. Now look at what has happened to y'all, okay? Because y'all won't deal with what Allah himself is showing that he want to destroy. Because y'all won't deal with what Allah himself is showing y'all what he want to destroy y'all for, okay? Look at what has happened to y'all. You know that guy, Anthony Fauci, that brought up all of the wearing the mask and the shots that people take and stuff like that. If you watching C-SPAN, none of us there, none but white folk, white congressmen and senators and stuff like that, they want to put that cat in jail now because he killed a lot of people with lies and with propaganda. It's what they saying. Kill a lot of their people. And they talking about this shot. You go to their websites about natural news and so forth. These are white scientists, white nutritionists and so forth, white doctors that actually have discovered what Anthony Fauci and others were actually doing. Okay? You probably saw that on clips of that on YouTube where they actually was grilling Anthony Fauci on the Senate floor and so forth. They want to put that cat in jail for life. Because many people died. Lost their livelihood and so forth over what they had discovered was just a big conspiracy. Not a conspiracy theory, but a real conspiracy. You see what happens when you don't right your own wrongs? It come back on you in big time. Okay? So what's going to be the end of this? We'll see. But that is what studying is for. That's what all these websites coming up for. Let us get into it. Let's get into deliberative dialogue, okay, for ourselves. Let's see here. And today, in this day and time, what the rappers talk about, that's just wicked from music executives, okay, mainly Jewish, okay? They talk about the wickedness of the 360 deal. It's called the 360 deal, you know, for these black rappers and so forth. Have you ever saw that? Oh man, I forgot. It's two, Cardi B and another sister too. I forgot her name, you know, and she's just as filthy. But anyway, though, I remember years ago when they was just getting into it. It was on. I remember seeing it. A lot of my wings. I saw this on YouTube. They was going through the industry and the pain they was going through, and they actually did one of those videos where they put the phone up and begin to talk about stuff. And this is was actually crying. I sold my soul to the devil. I don't know how to get out of this, man. That 360 deal. You know what I'm saying? And some of the rappers talked about that too. I think Snoop Dogg mentioned that. Man, look at what's going on. Look at what's being revealed. You know, we are in the manifestation of some heavy defects, some heavy evils that we're going to have to deal with. Look at what's being revealed now about the state of Israel, the Israelis, and that state and how it came about, what they're doing right now. Think about it. Let me see. What do I have? No, I don't have it. Okay, so let me see. Where are we at now? Immediately after. Oh man, time's running out. Okay, we're gonna have when we conclude this show. I'm gonna walk off, but we're gonna have a 1 minute outro, and I want y'all to just check out the 1 minute outro, you know, and just absorb it, okay? But anyway, though, let me say a few more words before we end. Where we at here? Immediately after our enemies wrecked our economic progress in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, listen to this, immediately after our enemies wrecked our economic progress. Do you remember here in Portland when they first began to gentrify their community, and then they put the police station right up there on Kennedy and so forth? They actually had a sign. They had the nerve to have a sign in the window, and it said "Weed and Seed Community." Weed and seed community. We're gonna take up the weeds and we're gonna put in. Take up the weeds, put in. After you deny the community funding, after you use bank redlining, after you stole people's homes, weed and seed community. Man, okay, look, where we at? Let me stop that. Okay. Immediately after our enemies wrecked our economic progress in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, they, with lazy, scary, and thirsty Negro leadership, worked together to produce a situation in us that kept letting others do for us what we did before and can now do for ourselves. Our enemies absorbed, listen to this, our enemies absorbed our gifts and talents into their existence with great trickery and false friendship. Is Vo back there now? Do I got to rush back there, or is Vo back there? Can you give me the hands up, or? Okay, I guess word. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, our enemies absorbed our gifts and talents into their existence with great trickery and false friendship. Our enemies absorbed our talents and gifts into their existence with great trickery and friendships. So there is a real existence, listen to this, and we have to say this because our people got to get it together, man. We got to stop letting people, depreciate us and just want to use us for their cash cow because we don't know how to be on code, so they're going to use it this and that way. That has to stop. If we don't stop it, they're going to continue. That's just the nature of the thing. We shouldn't disrespect them, but they're going to continue until we get our own foot out the way. Okay? Now, so there is a real existence of sellouts and those who, because of fear and ignorance, were drawn out. Remember, the minister said that at the Million Man March, and we just celebrated an anniversary of the Million Man March a few days ago, and you can see that online also. And let me see. Since I mentioned that, you can go online to get our information engine. This was the most recent one, the Million Man March, Atonement, Reconciliation, and Responsibility. This is like a historical glimpse of what happened. I think Allah was there. Real talk. So, there is a real existence of sellouts and those who, because of their fear and ignorance, were drawn out. The minister made that point at the Million Man March. Some of us are not sellouts, but we have been drawn out. So we need to be counseled in such a way so that our brain power can be used for us and not for others. Okay? We are at the end of others using and manipulating us. We are at the end of that. A reason, now hear this. A reason why the Mexican influx was initially allowed because they wanted cheap labor. A reason why North America has apparently lost control of its borders is a result of its geopolitical activities that weakened and destabilized the sovereignty of what is considered Latin countries. And the majority population not practicing, hear what I'm saying? The majority population not practicing charity begins at home has crippled America beyond repair. What are they talking about today? What is that lady's name? I forgot her name, man, but she's really famous now. She in the Senate, a white lady, and she was on Tucker Carlson's show a few days ago, and she talked about Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and we are sending millions overseas. We are doing this, we are doing that. We have to stop this. The government is closed down because we can't come to an agreement. This, that, and the other, and so forth. Look at what's happening. Okay? And then we got to look at ourselves and be like, okay, what is our position in this? Our position, our issue should be, okay, we got to become brothers and sisters. We got to actually get on code with each other. We got to actually realize that the help that's coming, they will look at the people in America that has been put at naught, and we're going to get the assistance first because we're going to be the catalyst to bring the whole world around to a kind of existence that will be void of hegemonies forever. Okay. Thank you for listening. I greet you all in peace. Assalamu alaikum.